exciting is this? Are you guys excited? Oh, come on, that's lame. Are you guys excited? It is a fantastic conversation that we're having today, and I'm very happy to be here talking with you about that. So, yeah, just hold on to that. So I need to do a caveat, first of all. I need to let you know that my topic is the transportation of the future will require a governmental leap of faith. Now, my caveat is I am a government-appointed official, okay? So I'm not trying to talk myself out of a job. I'm not trying to say that government is bad or non-responsive. I'm just saying that to be prepared for the transportation of the future, that it's going to require a governmental leap of faith. Everybody got the caveat? All right, fantastic. So what I want to talk about a little bit is what do I mean by that leap of faith? I do not mean the Thelma and Louise style driving off of a cliff without looking. That is not what I am talking about. We can do better than that. What I am talking about is more of a field of dreams, build it and they will come. So I want to take a couple of minutes to talk a little bit about government itself, just the makeup of governments. By our nature, we are very risk adverse. You guys agree with that? Very risk adverse. It takes us a long time. We want to know all the answers to all of the questions. We want to know answers to questions that we don't even know have been asked yet. But we do that because that is what we are responsible for doing. So that does tend to make us a little bit slower to respond to the technology and the needs for transportation of the future. So with that in mind, I want to talk a little bit more about some of the trends that we are seeing in the transportation industry. One, when you think of transportation, the first thing you think of is you're going to get in your car and you're going to drive from point A to point B, right? That's what you normally think of. You get in a car, point A to point B. But the trend for those type of singular occupant driver vehicle miles traveled is going down. It's been going down for several years in a row. It's because there are demands for additional type of transportation, not necessarily singular vehicle occupant driving. So that's one trend. The other trend that we're seeing is passenger rail. Passengers are increasing, ridership is increasing. And another statistic is that infrastructure, whether they be a private entity or whether they be a government entity, if they invest in their passenger rail infrastructure, they're seeing a dramatic increase in ridership. Okay, you guys with me? Decrease in vehicle miles traveled, increase in passenger rail. The second major trend that we're seeing, third major trend, is a dramatic increase in freight movement, especially in the northeastern United States. We're seeing this influx because of the recent expansion of the Panama Canal. So you're seeing ports up and down the northeast United States scrambling because of the constant demand. So that's going to have a major impact on the transportation of the future. Now, these three trends, again, are going to have a serious impact to our transportation, not just here in the United States, but globally. So normally a governmental aspect would be, hey, what is driving this demand? What is driving these trends? But my theory, it's not necessarily a what that's driving these trends. It's more like a who. So the number one, in my opinion, contributor to these trends are millennials. And the normal governmental outlook on millennials is, yeah, we know there's a lot of them. We know that they're up and coming into the workforce, but we'll worry about them later. But the fact of the matter is, what I think people don't necessarily understand, which is going to require a governmental leap of faith, is this is the largest generation we've ever seen. They're the most ethnically and racially diverse. And I have one of these little boogers, so I know. I call them DSBs. They've been digital since birth. Right? They've grown up alongside of technology. They are more comfortable on their phone, right, on social media. And I will also tell you that we're seeing a shift, a paradigm in driving habits. I know when I was 16, the first thing I wanted to do is get into my car and drive. I wasn't good at it, blonde, not good at it. But I wanted to drive because that's how I connected to my friends, to my community, to do what I want to do. These DSBs, millennials, they've been digital and connected since birth. They're already connected. And then the other thing, I was actually having this conversation with my daughter, who's 24, and yes, I had her when I was 10, about just 10 years ago, we were drilling it into our children's head that don't get into a car with strangers, right? Do not take rides from strangers. And now she trolls the internet looking for apps and companies to do just that, to give her a ride. So just in that short amount of time, these millennials are actually changing the face of transportation, and we need to make a governmental leap of faith to acknowledge that. So the second population, in my opinion, that is changing these trends and we need to pay attention to are our seniors. And I love this photo because this is what the traditional government outlook on our seniors are. It is the female in the passenger seat pointing at, I'm sure, what is an outdated manual map and giving that look. Ladies, you know that look. You just took a wrong turn, and now I'm going to be late for my hair appointment, you dingbat. And that, ladies, that look is actually hardwired into our DNA, so we're able to do that. But that's the traditional look, the traditional governmental aspect for seniors, that they're not tech savvy and they're not very active. But I think different. I think different. I think that they are much more tech savvy than we give them credit for, and they are much more active, and here's why. Here in Delaware, we're working on modernizing our transit, and we actually piloted over the summer an app that you would download on your phone. You would pay for your fare medium, and you would ride the bus, and you use the app as your bus pass. So we did it. It was a really successful pilot, and at the end of the summer, we did some analytics. The #1 downloader and user of our app, women over the age of 65. #2, men over the age of 65. Seniors are much more tech savvy than government gives them credit for. Also, they're much more active. The traditional government aspect and outlook on seniors is, all right, well, they want to go, from their home to their hairdresser or to golf and then back. That's all they want to do. That's not true. My husband and I actually visited some friends down in Orlando, Florida at the place called the Villages. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it is a senior community of over 100,000. And it was astonishing me because it was a Tuesday morning at about 10 o'clock. And they were showing us from clubhouse to clubhouse to clubhouse, 10 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday. I couldn't get over it. Every single clubhouse was packed. Seniors were playing pickleball. Seniors were playing golf. They were playing pool. Some were drinking cocktails while they were playing pool and pickleball, but that's another talk. But they are much more active than we give them credit for, and they are driving change, and governments need to take a leap of faith and make sure they understand that going forward. The third population is our persons with disabilities. The traditional government outlook on persons with disabilities is we want to get them from their residence to their doctor's appointments, and that's it. I believe that's wrong. I actually just spoke to a group of them yesterday morning. They are much more active. They have jobs. They are active in their community. They want to do things that we as government need to make sure that we provide for them. So those three populations, in my opinion, are driving those trends. So this is a perfect example. We have all this unmet demand. These transportation network companies, these rideshare companies, they just popped up. As governments, we had no idea how to regulate them. There was no laws on the books. There was no regulations. And I will tell you, if these rideshare companies waited until government found a way to regulate them, most of them would still not be in operation today. We have to take a governmental leap of faith to make sure we're meeting the needs of our citizens. Now, this is actually a picture of the Port of Wilmington. I was talking a little bit about that earlier. We also need to take into consideration consumers are changing the way they buy things, right? Amazon Prime lovers, raise your hand. Yes, right? So I love telling Alexa, please order tea. And she's like, okay, confirm. And I was like, yes. Fine. So my tea comes into this Port of Wilmington, right? I don't care. It doesn't matter to me how it gets to me. It ends up on my front step within 48 hours. Comes into this port. It is driven by truck right down the street to this Amazon fulfillment center in Middletown, Delaware. And then it's taken by a local delivery truck right to my front door, right? We're all used to this already, right? I can tell you as a government, we're still struggling on how to deal with that truck traffic. We need to take that governmental leap of faith and know this is here, this is now, but guess what? This is coming. The technology exists, right? You're going to get your Amazon Prime delivery via drone dropped off at your front door. We're fumbling all over ourselves trying to figure out how to do that, right? Because we need to make sure it's safe, it's efficient, and the consumer is protected. But I would tell you the technology is there, and we have to take that leap of faith and make sure we're ready for it. So my theory is that public policy lags behind technology in the transportation industry by about a factor of 10. So to put that theory to test, I asked 10 public officials, do you think you're plugged into the transportation technology and the needs of emergent technology in transportation? Yeah. Okay, great. So I asked 2 questions, and I'm going to ask you guys. Are you familiar with the term Internet of Things? Raise your hand if you are. Oh, you guys should run for office. You're doing really good. Okay, none of the people that I asked understood that had heard of that term before. The second thing I asked, are you familiar with the Smart Cities Challenge that was put on by the federal government? How many of you are familiar with that? Excellent. I have to tell you, and this is not to slam anybody at all, there was only one person that I asked that knew the answers to that question. Representative Osinski, could you please raise your hand? Thank you very much for all that you do. He is the House Transportation Committee, and we're happy we have him because he gets this. He gets this, so thank you, sir. But that leads me to my next point. This is a perfect example. This is the Delaware Department of Transportation mobile app. We launched this in 2015 Man, we have been planning for transportation. We had built Bluetooth readers into our roadways. We thought we were the bomb, right? Launched this in 2015. Real-time traffic information, real-time cameras, everything. Our customers were like, yeah, that's great, but we need more. And we're like, what more do you need? So we took a huge governmental leap of faith, and we partnered with a company called Waze. You guys heard of Waze, right? You probably used Waze to get here today. But I got to tell you, the leap of faith came because Waze, as you know, is a crowdsourcing platform, right? It's consumer-based information. And when you have a government data and you have consumer-based, sometimes they don't match. So the leap of faith is, yes, you're not going to be able to control everything that Waze puts on your system, but I will tell you, our consumers, it increased the number of downloads and the usage by tenfold. So it really works, and you have to take that governmental leap of faith. And it's not just with information. You know, you've heard, I'm sure most of you, Elon Musk's Hyperloop. They chose 10 sites around the world, around the globe, and happy to say one of them is in the United States. But the intent is to have one or two of them up and running by 2021. 2021. Now that is going to take a monumental leap of governmental faith, because there's absolutely no reason right now we can't have a Hyperloop right here in Delaware, down Route 1 and back, brought to you by, I don't know, Ford, 3M, Google. There's no reason why that can't happen, but it's going to require a huge governmental leap of faith. So now this is probably the best example that I have to drive my point home about the governmental leap of faith. This is a company called Nutonomy, and they've been working side by side with our brilliant minds at MIT right here in the United States. And they came up with this technology to do artificial intelligence with these little pod cars that they learn as they go, and they pick you up and drop you off, right? Technology wasn't the difficult part. They decided to launch this in Singapore. And when asked why they launched it in Singapore, the #1 response was, the Singapore government is more capable and more nimble of allowing this type of technology to launch and launch quickly. This is a huge wake-up call to elected officials. If we don't take that leap of faith, all of us, we're not going to be able to benefit from the transportation leaps forward in technology that we should be able to benefit from. So this is a huge wake-up call and call to action. We've got to take that governmental leap of faith. And I will tell you, that's exactly what we're doing here in Delaware. If you have driven any road in Delaware, we are building. We're not just planning for the transportation of the future, we are building for the transportation of the future, because we know if we build it, they will come. Thank you.